name's Adam McKilligan. I am a regional manager with the acquisition group. I've worked here since 2010. I currently run our division called SEAL within the acquisition group. We work with young organizations and help them grow and scale to where they need to get to. I joined the acquisition group as a summer student back in 2010. Like most university students, there are lots of rumors about if you were a lawyer or your accountant or a doctor, how much money you would make. In reality, I had no life experience. I didn't know what to expect. I did have a lot of ambition. I knew I wanted to be able to advance and grow in the career that I wanted to be able to set myself up for future success. I wanted to be an entrepreneur and run my own business. What I noticed very quickly is I was very happy being an entrepreneur within the acquisition group. I wanted to gain some real world experience, and working at the acquisition group was going to give me experience selling, managing people, doing interviews, training, and running workshops. My largest fear when I was in school was that I would graduate with the same degree that everyone else was going to graduate with, and I wouldn't be able to stand out or get the jobs that I wanted to do. Through my work with the acquisition group, I've been able to learn how to speak to clients, how to ask questions, how to do presentations, and how to be able to hold conversations. I can do this from any level, let it be selling to consumers, selling to small businesses, medium-sized businesses, enterprise businesses, or even closing deals with large banks in Canada. I've been very fortunate to learn how to do that here at the acquisition group. I think that what I've learned about people at the acquisition group, and if I culminate my 15 years of working here, is the best way to work with people is to draw ideas out of them and allow individuals to come to their own realizations of what is correct and what they should be doing, rather than trying to tell them what to do or trying to play Inception with them to think the way that I think. Being a good leader is asking questions, finding out what they want to accomplish and how they want to accomplish it, and allowing them to come to their own realizations. I think when it comes to hiring the right people, educating the right people that work with you, and retaining team members long-term, it's about fostering an environment that enables people to make decisions and to be able to carry out their day-by-day tasks. Again, when you listen to your team members, you collect ideas from them, you gather what they want to do and how they want to do, and you allow them to come to those determinations. Leading people becomes very easy because they're on the same journey with you and you're not on opposed journeys. I have a lot of experience interviewing people. I've had the pleasure of working with the acquisition group since 2010. Since that beginning, I've probably been able to do over 3,000 interviews with candidates over the last 14 years. An exceptional candidate is someone that is able to articulate who they are and what they're looking for, and be able to articulate that back to all of the questions that you do ask. And they're also able to articulate exact examples of how they were able to accomplish those previously. Ideally, when I am hiring, I am looking for someone that displays resiliency and a good thought process. So when they do end up working with us, they'd be able to think their way through various different situations and be able to independently solve problems. I think the biggest misconception that's out there today is that people think they can go onto LinkedIn, they can go onto a job board and simply just send their resume and apply for a job, and they hope that they get an answer back from that organization. If you really think about it, if a job goes up today, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people will be competing over that same job. If you're simply just going online and applying, you will not hear back from that organization. The likelihood you get that job is very minute. Really good individuals don't just apply to jobs, they find very, different ways to get in front of the hiring managers to be able to get those roles. So I think the first thing every candidate should do when applying for roles is first finding what they want out of a role. My very first step would be probably to upload my resume to some AI ingestion tool and see what roles I should be applying for based on my experience. From there, I would write down what I want to get out of a job and really detail what that experience would look like for me. The next step, I would detail out what type of organization I'd want to have, and maybe even speak about what type of leader I want to have. With this clarity in mind, I would then target or write down 20 organizations that meet the criteria, and I would start doing research on those organizations. I would look at their LinkedIn, I would research them online, And I would start networking with people within these organizations and simply adding them on a platform like LinkedIn. I think what is really being missed in this world is networking. And when you really think about it, the biggest problem most candidates have is they're just simply applying and hoping someone, gets back to them, which is very unlikely in today's climate, right? So if it was me and I was looking for a role today and I had a desire to work at, say, the acquisition group, I would start looking at people that are under the acquisition group's LinkedIn and connecting with them on LinkedIn. And I would start having social conversations with them and asking them questions that I could get responses to. I wouldn't just spam them and say, hey, I'd really love to work here. How do I get a job? I'd ask them questions around how do they like the role? What has made them successful? What advice would they have for someone that's starting out in their career? And having an engaging conversation with them. If I ever saw a job role that popped up, or if I saw that organization usually hires individuals for the types of roles that I want to get hired for, what I would be doing is asking the individuals that I've networked with in those organizations to take in my resume and send it over to the hiring manager. I wouldn't ask them to vouch for me. I would simply ask them to say, hey, I'd love for you to send my resume to XYZ individual. I'm not asking for vouch for me, but if you could send it over to them, it would sure mean a lot to me. The best news about this, if you think about it, if the hiring manager starts receiving resumes from internal employees saying, hey, this is an individual that I think you should speak to, you're most likely going to be able to secure that interview and get in front of the hiring manager. Even better, multiple people sending that over to them and following up with them directly will capture their attention to make sure that you're able to get that interview. So great news, you got the interview, you've received that email that says you're going to interview. It's still preparation time. I'm still going to reach out to individuals within my network that work at that company to send my resume to them, because the more resumes that I get, they're going to start thinking, hey, what's going on with this Adam candidate that I get to interview next week? I'm going to prep for that interview by going over most asked questions. And if you really think about it, if you're interviewing with a recruiter or a hiring manager, it is much different than interviewing with an executive at that company. Recruiters and hiring managers all have a framework for interviewing. They ask the same questions and they really think about their interviews as a checklist. They're going to ask questions like, tell me about yourself. When's the time that you have failed and been able to overcome challenges, right? Why do you want to work here? Why did you apply here? Why should we hire you? I would prep answers to these questions. And the framework I would use was I would have a very short and concise answer of answering the question. I would tell them why I thought that was the correct way to answer the question. And then I would give them a real life example of how I've displayed that behavior. Well, I think if the interview's going well, it feels like a natural conversation like you're having with your friends. If the other person feels checked out on the other side and they're not engaging with you in the conversation and you feel like you're just going through the process, it's probably not going the way you want it to go. The thing to remember is the person interviewing you really wants to hire you, right? They're not showing up to an interview to just go through the motions. They want to fill that position, they want to hire you, and they need you to give a reason of why they should hire you. And you should be telling a story with examples of why you're that right person. The other thing that I would prepare for every interview is questions that I would be asking back to the interviewer. One thing that I think interviewees do too often is they just allow the interviewer to take control of the conversation. And if you think about it, they're having the same conversation with every other candidate. I would prepare questions before coming to that interview that I would be asking the person interviewing me. And I'd be polite and saying, hey, is it okay if I ask you a couple questions? Building a relationship with the person interviewing you starts with before the interview research, right? There's enough information out there about every individual in this world. Doing a little bit of research into them goes a very long way. For example, if you Google me, you'll see some things about my dog. You'll see that I like golf. You'll see that I wrestled in high school and university. Opening up a conversation about your dog or what type of dog you have or anything else is a very easy way to break the ice in that conversation. I think the largest mistakes that individuals make in the interview is they're too worried about asking questions or answering those questions. and they don't spend enough time building relationships themselves, asking questions and justifying their answers that they're giving back to the interviewer with examples. One of my favorite questions I've always asked in interviews was, if I was standing on a corner with you in New York City and I was to ask you how many windows were in the building across from us, what would your answer be? I don't need the correct answer out of this question. What I'm looking to determine out of a question like that is, how does the individual think and how do they handle questions that they wouldn't normally get on a day-by-day basis? Really, how do they think on their feet? If someone can't articulate their answer or articulate why they came to that answer, it really doesn't go well for me. They could have an answer that's one window, they could say 100 windows, they could say 400 windows, they could get the question right if it was possible, but I'd care more about how they articulate their answer, as well as how do they then back it up with their logic and how they got there. Once the interview's over, you need to find ways to stand out with, the hiring manager. If you're looking at a sales role, I would treat the interview and the follow-up process to that interview like I would a salesperson with a prospect, right? There'd be an after email. There might be even, I will send balloons to you. You need to stand out versus every other candidate that you're competing over with this job. What you really want to do is tell the story of why you're the best person that they should hire, and you should display yourself as the person that's already hired within the role. What a lot of candidates miss in the interview is asking questions around, what are next steps? What are you looking for out of a candidate? The ideal candidate that gets hired for this role would do X, Y, Z. And then I would follow those answers to a T in my follow-up process to be able to get the interview. Again, if you followed what I've already spoken about and built the relationships and networked within that company, I would be following up with those individuals and finding out more information from them and asking what the next steps are and their advice on what the next steps are to be able to secure a position within that company. I think the first thing everyone has to identify is, why are they applying for this job and what are they really looking to gain out of that role? When you wake up and you're 30, 40, or 50 years old, what do you want out of your career and what do you want to get out of this job? If I was looking to be able to grow and advance in my career, the number one thing that I'd be looking for out of a company is a good leader / mentor that's going to be able to guide and invest time into me while working there. Mentorship's so important to me because that's how you actually learn and you grow within your career. Let it be, a sport you played as a kid, you had to get coached, whether it was in school with a teacher. We all need mentors to be able to grow and develop ourselves. I've been very fortunate in my life and career to have some pretty amazing coaches and mentors within my life. And that's one of the major reasons why I ended up working at the acquisition group, was the mentorship that was provided throughout my career. I would describe the culture of the acquisition group as a fun environment, and whatever you're going to put in is what you're going to get right back out to it. We love to provide opportunity to individuals that work here, and the good news is, whatever you're going to put into this, you're going to get right back out. I absolutely didn't expect to be doing what I'm doing today. I've been very fortunate to work in many divisions within the company in many different roles on many different programs. I've been lucky enough not only to be mentored into these roles, but also put a lot of work in to make sure what I worked on was a success. So my advice or guidance to anyone that would be looking at the acquisition group as a potential career choice is to learn as much as you can, gain as much mentorship as possible, and put in all the work that you want to be able to gain whatever career that you want it to be. Early on in my career, it was all about professional development. What could I learn? What skills could I develop to be able to, jumpstart my career and get to where I wanted to be? What I learned that helped me out the most was also making sure that I was taking care of my mental health, my physical health, and everything else. I'm in lots of communities with other leaders. I'm in lots of communities with other sales professionals. And I do a lot of meditating, exercise, eating healthy, as well as talking to professionals to help with my mental clarity. One thing I noticed was I was really good when I was at the top of my game. When I was having a great week, a great month, a great year, I was happy, everything went really well. But if I wasn't at the top and if everything wasn't going well, I noticed that my performance slipped drastically. And what I had to do to combat that was make sure that I exercised, ate healthy, meditated, and worked with others to make sure I was in the right mental state to be able to be as successful as possible. Probably a hot take here, I don't really believe in work-life balance. And it's not that I don't think there should be a balance. I work lots and I don't work lots. I go to the gym, I eat healthy, I do lots of activities. I also work a lot. My personal thought is you need to live a lifestyle that's conducive to the lifestyle that you want to live, right? Lots of people will preach that you have to start at 9 and end at 5. That's a completely acceptable ask, but in reality, that's just not what I wanted. Some days I'll work more than 8 hours, some days I'll work less than 8 hours. Some weeks I'll work more than 40 hours, a lot of weeks I'll work a lot less than 40 hours. I think what you need to do for your career is find a lifestyle that meets your criteria and then follow that criteria to make sure that you find the life that you absolutely need. I think the biggest thing that's being missed today from individuals is becoming an expert at what they do. And I'm not saying be 90% good at something. I'm not even saying being good at 95% of it, not even 99. You have to be the best at what you do, and that will dictate your career choice, your path, as well as the income that you make. If you only get so good at something, you are just normal, you're a commodity, and everyone else has the same amount of skills. So whether it was sales, HR, client services, leadership, I would do everything under my control to make sure I was the best at that and continue to grow and develop myself. If you're the best at it, it's going to provide opportunity, but also a lot of financial rewards in the future. I'm excited about opportunities of teaching individuals and passing on the knowledge. I think my favorite thing that occurs today is when I get phone calls from leaders, salespeople, or companies that I work with that they accomplish their goals. I had a meeting earlier this week with a young organization that's trying to get to $1 million in revenue. And they were asking me, hey, what are you going to get out of this? And my answer was very simple to them. If you phone me in 6 months and you tell me you got to $1 million in revenue, that would make me the happiest individual imaginable. So what I really get excited about and what I get jazzed up about is watching people accomplish what they want to accomplish. And I'm excited to do that through the acquisition group. We're always looking for talented individuals that can enter the organization and provide a lot of value to us. So if you're looking for a role, you're looking for a career, you're looking for a place that you can get mentored and grow and advance, there's no better place than the acquisition group to do so. Obviously, I have a biased opinion. I was able to start here in 2010 in a junior sales role and grow very quickly within the organization. So I believe anyone else can have the same opportunity that I did. Thank you for watching today. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you are looking for a role today, there's a link in the description to apply. Looking forward to meeting you.